Yo, what's up? This is Elder's and today we're going to be talking about the horrors of Homelander from The Boys. Season 4 of The Boys just wrapped up, and man, this guy is pure evil. For 4 seasons in a row, we've been watching as this superhero descends into being a super villain. And Homelander checks all of the boxes, every last one of them. A man who bears about the same powers as Superman, with the screwed up mentality of an actual screaming man-child, stirs up a serious recipe for disaster. Homelander just carries this certain kind of demeanor with him that's just so scary. It feels like being in a room with him is like standing face to face with a shark. It can eat you whenever it wants, and it does want to. It's just wondering if this is really the right time. I mean it when I say that this guy's gotta be the most despicable villain we've seen on TV since Negan. Like since he put the bat to Glenn's head, Negan. And I thought it would be interesting today to look at this guy in a different light than everybody else is taking it. In today's video, I'm not interested in trying to review or explain the entire series of The Boys that's happened so far. I'm not here to compare this guy to the comic books or to tell you about any Easter eggs that were hidden throughout any episodes. No, today I just want to take a look at the psyche of this guy and go over like a few points in the timeline that seem to have led to where we're at now at the end of season 4 and figure out exactly what happened as he strayed from the path of hero and walked the path of the villain. This video is going to contain spoilers for everything we've seen so far from The Boys, and we'll even be taking a look at some of the cartoons that were featured in the Diabolical series.
Is The Boys Diabolical canon?
It mostly is, but then if it was strictly canon, we couldn't have it on air. A lot of what's in the graphic novel is a little too explicit.
Yes.
But who is the Homelander? Well, in the world of The Boys, there's like tons of people with superpowers. Honestly, it seems that at least like a third of the population in this show has them. But Homelander seems to be the most powerful of all of them, and bears the worst temper as well. You see, in this world, they haven't really had any like real super villains. There's no like extraterrestrial threats the way we see in a lot of Marvel and DC things. No, these guys are more like your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man kind of deal, just with like way crazier powers. In this world, there's like a big company that kind of keeps all of the superhero stuff under control. They're called Vought, and this company is like a multi-billion-dollar organization. So in order to like really keep a hamper on things and make sure that they could contain all of the heroes throughout this world that The Boys has created, they had to create one hero to rule them all, and that one would happen to be Homelander. See, normally when we talk about killers, serial killers, horror movie villains, we're normally talking about, you know, nature versus nurture when it comes to these things. It's an argument that goes back as far as time, really, like it's plain psychology. But in Homelander's case, it wasn't necessarily about the nature or the nurture, because for him, it was just all bad, really. The man was created as a weapon, using the DNA of a very powerful hero before him. We'll be talking about him a little bit more later, but just know that he also wasn't a great guy. But the way that Homelander was brought up was just bound for disaster. See, the company Vought would use the DNA that they'd collected from this Captain America stand-in Soldier Boy and put it in a surrogate so that she could carry the baby for full term. But as soon as Homelander was ready to come out, he violently lasered his way through his mother's stomach and floated out in front of the room. From there, he was pretty much raised in a lab by a bunch of scientists that were definitely not meant to be, you know, family figures. He actually got his human pseudo-name John from one of these scientists. It was in these labs that he was shut in and completely cut off communication from the rest of the world, robbing him of any possibility of having like a human upbringing of any kind. No, instead he would spend his days being programmed, seeing images on a projection that were meant to stain into his brain and give him morals and strong principles. Homelander would definitely like watching these projections a whole bunch more than he would like the other tests that the scientists would subject him to, which included being locked in an oven so that they could see if he would withstand the heat, and being kept in isolation for constant observation, never having a shred of privacy throughout his life. No, this guy's upbringing was anything less than normal. By the time that Homelander was allowed out of this cage and able to fulfill the superhero role working for Vought, he was already a young man with very, very stunted mental growth. When he was brought out into the limelight, he was done so by Madeline Stillwell, who would instill in him the need to be number one in the limelight. It was his birthright to lead the Justice League in The Boys called the Seven, and to usher in a new era of superheroes. But from Homelander's very first mission, things were not looking great. No, I would actually argue that from this very beginning, he was doomed to walk the path that he did. So Homelander pulls up with Black Noir to help out some hostages that are being held up in some sort of industrial facility. And when he first arrives, he honestly seems to be trying to help everybody out. He's not killing anyone, he's not lasering anybody in half. He even breaks into the room where the criminals are holding the hostages and snatches up all their guns and tells them that violence is never the answer. And he honestly seems like he means it here. Like, this is Homelander trying to be a good guy. But things very quickly go south when he tries to heat up the last gun being held to a hostage's head, but accidentally causes the gun to explode, killing the hostage. This freaks all the other hostages out, and they all just kind of start screaming. Even the criminals in the room are like panicking at this point, and this triggers some crazy PTSD in Homelander. Off the jump, this guy does not need to be in the field. He was not ready yet. Raised like that, I don't know if he ever would be. But without even meaning to, Homelander shreds through everybody into this room, down to the last one, who is begging for her life when her and Homelander notice Black Noir standing in the way. See, he witnessed the whole thing go down, and Homelander rightfully assumes that he's cooked, man. Obviously, Black Noir should go tell everybody what just happened here and that Homelander is out of his mind, completely bonkers. So a little chase ensues, and by the end of it, Black Noir is able to actually explain to Homelander that, hey, this stuff happens all the time. This is totally par for the course, this is just what we do here. Don't worry about it, Chief. Just smile at the cameras and tell him you did your best job. And he does, and everybody loves him for it. This teaches Homelander something very important here. It's not about what he does or what goes down, it's just about what the public perception of everything is. And that as long as his lies aren't found out, he can pretty much do whatever he wants. And as a super-abled person, you know, why shouldn't he? He's the strongest, the smartest, the fastest. Nobody can touch him. He's invincible. Bad lessons were learned for him on this day. Let's just say, Uncle Ben should have been there to tell him great power, great responsibility, or whatever. He definitely never got that speech. But this catches us up to season 1 of The Boys, where we see Homelander pretty much at his, base normal. He's America's hero, he's basically Superman in the public's eye, but he's still a pretty bad dude. To be fair, every hero in The Boys at this point is. They're all terrible, terrible people. In the world of The Boys, superheroes know that they are, better than humans or whatever, so they take full advantage of that, and they are basically like celebrities in these worlds, the TV show and the comics. But where the show picks up, the first little thread that we see unraveling in Homelander comes when a plane needs his help. Him and Maeve pull up on a plane that's being held hostage and try to save everybody on board. Again, honestly trying. But when they arrive, they reach the cockpit, and a criminal on board has executed both of the pilots. Without thinking for a second, Homelander lasers right through the guy, slashing through the control panel on board as well. Maeve quickly realizes that this is not good and that they gotta get everybody off of the plane, or that Homelander's gotta try to stop the plane and let it down safely or something. But Homelander absolutely refuses. I don't know if he's just feeling lazy or what, but he decides, nah man, I'm not doing this. And as the people on board notice what's happening, they rightfully try to stand up and ask him why he would condemn them to death. But everybody yelling over top of each other seems to get Homelander freaked out a little bit. He's got that super hearing, so all of the noises at once kind of drives him crazy, freaks him out. And before you know it, he's lasering people on the plane and grabbing Maeve and getting out of there, watching as the whole thing goes down. He even has the gall to stand there afterwards, just like he did on his first day, telling the cameras that he did everything that he could and that he felt so bad about what went down. During this time, Homelander's also permitted to go into the military and go overseas. And this is like the worst possible thing that they could have done for him. These scenes of Homelander just walking around mercilessly killing people that he feels justified in executing is haunting. You can't tell me the difference between this and Michael Myers, for real. It's evil, man. Chilling to watch. I mean, after this, Homelander really starts coming unraveled, man. There's a point where he's even trying to talk to an angry crowd of people, trying to calm them down and take a little bit of responsibility for his actions that he's done. But in his head, he can't help but imagine just absolutely lasering everyone, just reveling in how much power he truly has over these people. It's horrifying, man. We also learned that Homelander has this, weird thing for milk. I don't know how to explain this exactly. I think it's like a manifestation of him not really having a mother or something like that. I don't know, man. It's some weird shit, man. But probably also for similar reasons, he's got some kind of attachment to his higher up, Madeline Stillwell. In fact, she seems to be the only person that can actually keep him under control, that seems to have some kind of a hold over Homelander, which is why it comes as such a surprise when down the line he decides that he needs to let go of that bit of his humanity, free himself, and actually laser Stillwell through her face. It's gruesome, man, and it's his way of unchaining his compassion. But something I haven't mentioned just yet about Homelander Homelander is that before the events of the first season, Homelander essays a woman named Becca Butcher, and she gives birth to Homelander's son. This information is kept from Homelander for most of the boy's life, but during season 1 he finds out about this and he's able to go and try to reconnect with him. Now this is so important for Homelander because he never had a family, he never had friends, he didn't have a childhood, anything like that. So he really takes this as his opportunity to be able to compensate for that in some kind of way. Him finding out that he has some kind of family on this earth means everything to him. In season 2 of The Boys, we see Homelander get his first proper love interest. This is represented in Stormfront. Stormfront is also evil. She's literally a 100-year-old that has been picked up by Vought and recruited to join the Seven. Now, her and Homelander get along because she is the first person that he has ever in his life seemed thought of as an equal in some way. So he's all ears to her when she's filling him up with all kinds of propaganda. She instills in Homelander that because he is stronger than everybody else, that he is better than everybody else, and that humans are merely toys there for his amusement, that he shouldn't feel chained down by his managers over at Vought or by his need for adoration from the people below him. All he needs is a true iron fist, and it doesn't matter if anybody loves or hates him, he will rule the world. Homelander wholeheartedly believes this and begins to try to instill this information into his son, who he begins visiting regularly as to try to establish some sort of familial bond with him. He tries to teach him about growing up with powers, tries to help him develop them by doing fun fatherly things like playing catch and pushing him off of a roof in hopes that he doesn't die and maybe flies. But it really goes to show how much Homelander cares about his child one day when him and Stormfront pull up to pick him up and take him on a little field trip to planet Vought. Here Homelander is swarmed by his many fans. The most important thing in the world to him is love and adoration of his fans. But he manages to shake that away when he notices that Ryan's actually having a panic attack due to being overwhelmed by all of them. It takes a break from all that to fly him away safety. There are levels of human elements in Homelander. It just so happens that almost all of those have been toxic and poisoned by his upbringing, being raised in a lab and tortured from day one. This pretty much leads Homelander to the worst day of his life when Stormfront attempts to kidnap Ryan away from his mother to take him to live with her and Homelander so that they can be a proper family of soups. But Ryan loves his mom and he's not quite ready to go. So when Stormfront attempts to murder his mother in front of her, Ryan finally unlocks his powers, unleashing Homelander's own signature laser vision onto Stormfront, obliterating her in the process and killing his mother. Now, Homelander arrives just in time to see this and look on at the burnt remains of his ex-girlfriend, coming to terms with the fact that it was in fact his son that did this. But when he attempts to get Ryan to come with him back to Vought Tower, he is denied in that request. Realizing that he has now lost his lover and his son, he's ready to completely obliterate this guy that's been giving him such a hard time all season. William Butcher, not the child, it's the kid's stepdad. But anyway, he gets ready to obliterate them. Just then, his longtime partner and most trusted confidant, Maeve, tries to get him to stop what he's doing. She appears foiling his plans, having enough of him doing all this evil nonsense and just wanting a sense of justice in the world, honestly. She threatens Homelander with evidence of what had happened with the plane in order to get him to let them go. And thinking about losing all of his fame and love, adoration, really just resonates with him, and this time he lets it slide. The end of season 2 harmed Homelander's psyche in such a way. This is the first time that he had truly lost here. When Stillwell died at the end of season 1, that was on his own volition. But this here was all cards off the table. I also believe that this is maybe the first time that he had to really think about what it would be like to lose all of his fans and supporters, and maybe got the gears turning on him, thinking about, if that would really be so bad. This was truly Homelander's lowest point yet, but he thought about that and set forth some plans to try to make some things better. He paid another visit back to Ryan and he gives him the talk that he knows his human stepdad can't. He explains to him that he's super and that it wasn't quite his fault that he killed his mom. He didn't know how to control his powers. Homelander knows a lot about that, and throughout his entire childhood growing up, he accidentally murdered many scientists around him just because the boy didn't know his own strength. It's a miserable thing to try to live with, and in a weird, sick way, it's kinda sweet that he tries to comfort his son like this for killing his mom. I don't know, man. When you go deep into the brain of the Homelander, it gets kind of fucked up, don't worry about it. But to add some layers on top of the whole familial dynamic with the Homelander, in season 3, he finds out that he actually had a father. And I touched on this a little bit earlier. Soldier Boy is the man whose DNA was used to create Homelander. And this guy was an asshole. He's essentially just Captain America, right? But if Captain America was mixed with like the worst, like wasted dude at a fucking Iron Maiden concert that you can possibly imagine. Like, this guy hates soft hands. But when Homelander finds out that he has a father and he's got his son back under his thumb, it really gives him hope that maybe things could be alright for him. He sees a path towards something that could give him a fulfilling life. So he takes the boy to meet his grandfather, and when the three of them are together, absolutely does not go the way that Homelander wants it to go. Surprise. No, Soldier Boy tells him that he's a disappointment and that he wish he wasn't such a whiny bitch all the time, shoves him in the face, the two of them get into a fight. And here, once again, we see Homelander put himself to the side to try to look out for his son. In the midst of all the scrapping that's going on, Homelander stops the fight and goes over to check on Ryan, who had just been thrown on the floor. He stands over him long enough for Soldier Boy to charge up his nuclear Godzilla chest blast thing, and was fully prepared to just take the blast, man. He was gonna die right there with his kid just to make sure that he was okay. That is until Butcher and Maeve got involved. He watches Soldier Boy and Maeve go out the window and explode, presumably both dying. And he once again has lost a shot at having a family. But he's still got Ryan though, so he puts all bets on him and takes him to Vought Tower to help him build his life as a Superboy. It should be noted here also that another character, the Black Noir, knew about Soldier Boy's connection to Homelander, him being his father and all. When Homelander put the two of these together, he felt absolutely betrayed. Thinking back on his first day on the job, it was Black Noir that actually put Homelander in his place and made him feel comfortable in the gang. Made him feel like he could do the whole superhero thing. And after Maeve turned on him, he became his most trusted confidant. Feeling lied to and stabbed in the back, Homelander takes this out by killing Black Noir, officially taking the life of one of his best friends. So now, trying to put a best foot forward, he goes to greet his supporters and introduce them to his son for the first time. This doesn't really go as planned, however, when a protester throws a bottle at him and it misses him and hits Ryan right in the face. Homelander can't control himself at this point, someone violating his son like that, so he just fucking beams him right there on spot. It is brutal, and you can tell that Homelander himself is shitting his pants thinking that something might be wrong here. He may have just crossed the line in public. This could be it for him. But nope, the crowd bursts into cheers, giving him a little bit of validation that he absolutely did not need. He realizes at this point that he can do whatever he wants, and people will still love him for it. This is when Homelander really sees his true power that he holds. Moving into season 4, Homelander looks around the room and notices there's not too many people left, and of the ones that are left, he's pretty disappointed with what he's seeing. In his mind, everyone around him is completely incompetent and not even close to being an equal of his. After losing both Stormfront and Soldier Boy, he begins to wonder if anybody can really match him. And he's even starting to come to terms with the fact that all of his plans so far have just not been working out in his favor. All of these things combined get him to go downtown and look out the smartest woman in the world. Him meeting Sage, though, is the catalyst, I believe, for him actually slipping into the whole villain thing. You see, Homelander by himself is dangerous and deadly, don't get me wrong, but he's far from what he would need in order to, like, truly take over the whole world. However, when he groups up with Sage here, she gives him that last piece of the puzzle necessary to make that happen. See, not only is Sage the smartest woman in the world, but she's also got to be the most devious, because the plans that she sets up for Homelander to take over are crazy. Everything that we've been building up for the past 3 seasons, she's able to just pull off like that in season 4, catapulting Homelander to where he wants to be, and truly setting him off to walk the path of the villain. Noticing that he is aging and that time is running up, also seeking to want a better world to leave behind for his son, he begins doing what he feels is right to make that happen. I guess making him like emperor of the world so that he could pass it on to his kid one day or something like that. He begins teaching his son what it means to be a superhero and doing it in a way that he feels is right, not in the way that it was done for him. You see, him being put through all that torture and everything really, messed him up, and he recognizes that, so he wants to make sure that Ryan grows up in the most positive environment that he can, by putting him in positions where he's forced to murder people against his will, but giving him the option to back out if he ever really wants to. You see, Homelander's kind of over all of the like public spectacle parts of being a hero at this point. No, having power and control is the thing that is most important to him, and he has realized that he doesn't need love or adoration to get that. He just needs fear and a generous helping of it. In fact, knowing that his time is coming, he decides to pay a visit to the scientists that raised him and one by one take them out in acts related to the ways that they used to torture and embarrass him when he was a boy. Cutting all of his loose ends, Homelander is preparing to ascend. His son Ryan, however, is very confused and mixed up in all of this. You see, he was raised by his mother for the majority of his life, and his mother was a human who wanted to raise him to kind of be a human. Think like a Clark Kent Superman kind of situation. But Homelander is no Superman, regardless of how much he looks like him. And when Homelander finds a photograph of Ryan's mother and his stepfather in his backpack, that sets him all the way off, man. Homelander freaks out and just destroys his quarters at the VOD tower. And when Ryan returns, he orders him to listen to him, and he orders him to recognize him as his father. But Ryan gets scared and just runs away. This enrages Homelander, and he takes it out by going on the craziest temper tantrum we've seen to date. He exposes his business partner and vice president for being a soup on live television, and then proceeds to make a list of every single person in VOD tower that has any bit of information or dirt on him so that he can execute them in cold blood. Well, send the other heroes to do it for him. Here, he would even be turned on and betrayed by one of his oldest friends in the Seven at this point, A-Train, who turned his back on him over a guilty conscience. While grieving this loss, however, he doesn't even seem to mind that one of his newest recruits is going through such lengths as to harm herself to please him, taking medications to provide him with some milk, and a twisted sense of satisfaction. As she starts displaying signs of distress and getting sick from this, he merely tells her to move away from him, and completely overlooks the pledge of servitude. It's also probably now a good time to mention that his super villain master plan that him and Sage are setting up involves him taking over the world by the president and then kind of taking their place with Newman as a super president so that the soups can have total power, and then he plans to intimidate her into kind of making him the one who's like really in charge here. At that point, he wants to take all of the people that are against him and put them into camps and kind of become like super. That's essentially his plan. But in a shocking turn of events, his son's stepdad manages to foil all of those plans, and in his true darkest hour, he's then visited by Sage, who explains to him that no, it was not all for naught. No, Homelander has been doing his part exactly the way he was supposed to the whole time, all of the pieces falling into place, and though Newman was killed, a new president is placed into order, one that promises his allegiance to the Homelander, effectively putting him exactly where he wanted to be. Season 4 ends with Homelander feeling more powerful than ever, standing at the president's podium and addressing the audience, explaining to them that the dawn of the new age has come for superheroes. And little do they all know that this is gonna be their worst nightmares. So in the scope of things, Homelander is absolutely the villain here. It's crazy how the one that was destined to be the world's greatest hero would definitely become its greatest villain. I don't think we've seen an origin story for a villain this serious in a long time. I mean, man, 4 seasons and all of them were hidden. The writing in The Boys is just masterfully done, and it really feels organic the way that this man is unraveled. As his story keeps going, we find out more information about why he is the way he is. And as I brought up at the beginning of this video, nature versus nurture, it truly seems like this guy just got the worst of both ends. The man who they took his DNA for, Soldier Boy, was one of the worst kind of characters in this show. He was ready to do egregious things himself in the blink of an eye, like, don't even doubt it. And then the way he was raised as a lab rat, constantly enduring torture day after day and being put into situations that just frankly scared the shit out of him, the boy was doomed from the start. In my opinion, maybe there could have been hope for Homelander if he had been, given the chance to be raised right, like a Clark Kent style, like, the rest of the superheroes in this world are. But the true bad guy of this story is, of course, Vought, the corporation that forced him to be born and forced him to be born into a world of suffering. They made the perfect recipe to create the first real supervillain in their world. And that kind of explains the horrors of Homelander. I've been Eldritch Terror, and if you think you know someone who might enjoy this video, be sure to send it their way. Also, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more videos just like this one. What did you think about Season 4 of The Boys? Let me know in the comments below. Also, do you think that this is the most despicable TV villain that we've seen in a while? How do you think he stacks up to ones of the past? Let me know in the comments if you can think of anybody else that's more egregious than this guy. But thank you so much for watching, and whether your day's been going good or bad today, I hope it gets better.